بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: وإذا بشر أحدهم بالأنثى ظل وجهه مسودا وهو كظيم. The first of our loud salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. The third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. One more request, there's no space for those coming in. One more, please come as close to the front as you can. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. One of the worst things the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family saw in his youth was the burying of females alive within Arabian society. No doubt it is seen as one of the most atrocious as well as one of the most horrendous acts that any human being could perform. Throughout his youth, he would see that it was normal for the pre-Islamic Arabian to take his daughter, either out of a moment of embarrassment, disgust, or shame, and be ready to bury her alive. Indeed, the act of female infanticide, as it's known, is one of the most abhorrent acts that ever can be performed in any society in the world today. Yes, when you look around the world, the act of aborting and killing a fetus, or the act of, for example, killing your own child alive, is an act which highlights that a human being has no pity or kindness within themselves. You find, therefore, that when the Prophet Muhammad was growing up, around him, there was this particular custom that existed in certain groups, in certain tribes, where they would be ready to bury their daughters alive. That group of people, arguably, to change them is one of the hardest tasks that you could ever have in your life, because these types of people in the Quran are known as the A'rab. A'rab is different from Arab. In the Quran, Allah talks about the Arabs, which is an ethnicity of people, but also talks of the A'rab. The A'rab are the people who still follow their tribal law, not the law of a state or the law of a religion. Yes, in today's society, the most difficult people to change in the Middle East or in Africa are the people who still live by their tribal laws. Their tribal laws in some cases are positive. In some cases, you'll find that their tribal laws, for example, value the importance of generosity, value the importance of, for example, keeping a promise, value the importance of honor. But at the same time, you find that some of their tribal laws are laws that they're not ready to change. Yes, if you look, for example, in the land of Iraq today, there is a group of people, we don't call them Arab anymore. You may call them Asha'ir. Yes, in Iraq, in the south, for example, the Asha'ir, in many cases, will follow law, but if the law clashes with their tribe, they have a major problem. Yes, If the Quran says one thing and tribal law says another, you'll find the ignorant of them will still follow the tribal law. As in the ignorant of them, it's very difficult for a person to be able to change them, because these people are so set in their ways that when the Prophet Muhammad comes and sees them, if my father did something in this way, then I do it in this way. If my grandfather did it, then I do it. Okay, but we're bringing a new way, new morals, new akhlaq, new principles. No, our tribe, that's our law. When we feel like following Sharia, we'll follow Sharia. And when it clashes with our tribal law, then we will not follow. You therefore find that that particular act of female infanticide was an act that was there within certain tribes in Arabia, and is an act that is still around us in the world today. If you look in the world today, there are over 8 million female fetuses that are aborted a year. Okay? 8 million female fetuses aborted a year. Why? Different reasons. The first reason some people are willing to kill their own child is because of the fear of poverty. Yes. Can I really look after this child if I have this child? Can I really maintain the child with the standards that society has set? You find a lot of people will bury their child because they'll say that there's no way that I have the money to afford to have this child. So all of a sudden they'll say the best thing is to do what? Is to abort. We know abortion in Islam has certain conditions. Yes, there are times when abortion is allowed. If the mother's life is in danger, for example, abortion is allowed. If, for example, there are certain genetic blood disorders that could prove fatal, abortion may be allowed. But you find, for example, for a person to commit an act, let's say someone committed an act of adultery, and now she finds out that she's pregnant. When she finds out she's pregnant, she wants to abort the child. Why? Say, because if the community finds out, then this is going to look bad on me. It didn't look bad on Allah when you went and committed zina. When the community finds out, it looks bad on me. So what do? They go and abort. Many emails I receive until today are from girls and daughters of our community who will tell you that I aborted my child, I aborted the fetus, and I regret it. What's the kafara to be paid? If any of you listening to this majlis today here, or anyone listening to the majlis online or on the television, if any of you have done this, email me. I'll write for you what the kafara is. Pay the kafara and do istighfar. Why? Because to kill a child simply because you are caring about your own reputation is not the teachings of the religion of Islam. Likewise, you may find someone may say, yes, but Ayatollah Sistani and others say that you may be able to abort if there is unbearable harm that may result from you having a child. That's a different condition altogether. Yes. There are certain societies where there's still the honor killing. I'll behead you if you've had that child. Yes. However, you find on the general, the first group of people, the Quran addresses them. Yes, when it tells them, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ خَشْيَةَ إِمْلَاقٍ نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُهُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ. Yes. Don't kill your children out of fear of poverty. We will provide them with rizq and provide you with rizq. Yes, there's a wonderful line. Many people don't understand the mathematical equation of rizq. Allah has set rizq for you in your life. Yes. وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. Everyone has a portion of rizq set for them in life. When you get married, that's double the rizq, correct? When you have a child, what is that? Triple the rizq. Therefore, when someone thinks that, you know what, let me kill my baby because I won't be able to afford, Allah has promised you, نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُهُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ. We'll provide them with rizq. Don't worry. It's like marriage. Many people say that I'm worried to get married because I don't have money. Yes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you are poor, we'll make you rich. Yes. Start off with the tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, the first group of people who abort or kill a child are those who kill because of poverty. Second group who kill a child is because they wanted a particular gender and they never got the gender. Simple. In China today, you have cases where people want a particular gender. If that's not the gender, then they kill the baby. Yes. So why? He said, I wanted a male. What's this female? When you hear there's 8 million female fetuses aborted in the world today, you find that Jahiliyyah then and Jahiliyyah now, there's not much difference at all. That's why fifth Imam was asked that in Surah 33, verse 33, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ وَلَا تَبَرَّجْنَ تَبَرُّجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةُ الْأُولَى. Jahiliyatul Ula, the first Jahiliyyah. Why first? Because there's a second Jahiliyyah, third Jahiliyyah. This is another period of Jahiliyyah. 8 million females are aborted. And you therefore find that the Arabs were exactly the same. That if they wanted a particular gender, if that gender was not what they saw, you found that they were ready to go ahead and bury that daughter alive. Why is this particular issue important? Firstly, what you see in your youth shapes your worldview. Imagine Rasulullah when he's 10, 12, 15 years old sees this happening. Yes. When he sees this later shapes your worldview. As in many of us here in this hall, when we see injustice occur, that injustice shapes our worldview. Yes. If I see children dying in Iraq at the age of 10, that shapes my worldview. If I see children dying in my street at the age of 15, shapes my worldview. Before you study the Muhammad of the age of 40, who has now announced his prophethood, first look at which issues affect his mind when he's younger. Yes? Because only then will you realize what is the vision of the man. Secondly, this topic becomes even more important. Why? Because of the fact that the main accusation against Rasulullah always is he's done nothing for woman and Islam does nothing for woman. Many times you hear people complaining that the religion of Islam has done nothing for the cause of the female, nothing to help the female, nothing to honor the female. Here you find no. On the contrary, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family, when he witnessed what was happening in Arabia, was part of a movement, including his wife Khadija, to stop female infanticide when it happens in the world. Today, in the United Nations, there are many who discuss female infanticide. Not once in the United Nations have we had a seminar held about the role of the Prophet and Khadija in stopping female infanticide. Yes. And that, most of it is our fault, not anyone else's fault. Yes. We're more worried sometimes about what time food is. Yes. And what the food should be and who should be cooking and so on. While the world is doing NGOs and charitable discussions, we're worried about these things. No, a person has to reflect that what did the Prophet do for female infanticide, for female literacy, education of women. Many of these girls in India and Pakistan, in Africa, certain parts of Iraq, can never even dream of a future as a daughter. And even in our own culture, sometimes when your friend has a child, you're like, so what did you have? Oh, I had a girl. Oh, what a shame. What a shame. So what do you mean, what a shame? Oh, we wish you had a guy. But a girl? No. Even that can affect us. That Jahili principle can also affect us. Therefore tonight, let's examine what Rasulullah saw in his youth in relation to girls within Arabian society and the way that they were treated. And I'd like to examine this in the following stages. Number one, what did it mean when the verse said, when one of them is told about the news of a female, their faces darken and there is a sense of grief within them? What happened to them? Number two, who was the man who first introduced this in Arabian society, the idea of burying the female alive? Number three, on the day of judgment, what will be the state of the girl that was buried alive? Does she come looking normal or does she have blood all over her body? Yes. Number four, what were the companions of Rasulullah like with their daughters? And which particular companion admitted to the burying of his own daughter? Number five, why were the Arabs burying their daughter? What was their main reasons? And how did Khadija, amongst others, break this? And number six, what was the social reform movement that took place where Khadija bint Khuwaylid's house became a hostel for every mother who wanted to protect the future of her baby? Let's examine this in order that we dissect the topic in complete depth. One of the most wonderful ayahs within the Holy Quran is Surah 16, verse 58. The Quran is not just a history book. The more the Muslims treat the Quran as a history book, the less interested we're going to be in reading it. Listen, I can read history, but even I get bored reading history, yes. You can read history, but you want a social edge, you want a legal edge, you want a spiritual edge. There are certain ayahs in the Quran which are wonderful social verses. When you look at them, you ponder what's going on there. One of these ayahs is Surah 16 verse 58. وَإِذَا بُشِّرَ أَحَدُهُمْ بِالْأُنْثَى ظَلَّ وَجْهُهُ مُسْوَدًّا وَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. When one of them is given the news of the birth of a female, you see their faces darken and you find them restraining their anger. They don't know whether to keep her in a state of embarrassment or let her go in a state of disgrace. What does this refer to? There was a man in Arabian society by the name of Qais bin Asim. Yes. Habib or Nu'man bin Mundhir was the ruler of Iraq. You know, these Arabs between themselves, there'd be many wars that would take place. One would plunder the other's village, one would plunder the other's tribe. Nu'man bin Mundhir, the ruler of Iraq, entered to plunder Banu Tamim's territory. Nu'man bin Mundhir was a powerful Iraqi man. Nobody would mess with him or mess with his soldiers. When he entered, he normally won. Anything he enters, he wins. He then confiscates the property and he takes the girls of the tribe as captives. In Arabia, there was a custom. When you win a war, the girls are your property. Yes, that's it. There is no such thing as, for example, at the time, them looking at it as oppression. No, I've won this battle. Your daughters are my captives. That's it. They come on our side. When Nu'man bin Mundhir defeated Banu Tamim, the head of Banu Tamim was Qais bin Asim. Qais looked around. Where's my daughter? He's looking around everywhere. Could not find her. Yes. You found that this Qais bin Asim himself narrates that I was looking everywhere for my daughter until I went towards Nu'man bin Mundhir. I said, you're the head of the Iraqi tribe? Yes, I am. He said, you captured our daughters? He said, yes, I did. They're my property. Yes. What in the Quran some people refer to as what your right hands possess. Those who are captured from war. It's normal, they'd plunder each other, they'd capture a daughter. Some of these girls, when they'd be caught in war, would straight away be happy with their new world or their new life. Why? Because they were treated abysmally in some cases, yes, by the people whose tribe they belonged to. You know, in many cases, these girls were commodities in a tribe, nothing more. The higher her dowry, the more she's worth. If, for example, she doesn't get a good dowry, she's not worth much at all. Yes, not to say that all women in Arabia were treated badly, not at all. There were some women who were treated amazingly. You know, there was a lady by the name of Layla. We later call her Shifa. She was a medic in the time of the Prophet. Hind, the wife of Abu Sufyan, was part of a sun-worshipping cult. I'll leave that for another day. You have, for example, amongst others, you have Jamil, Abu Lahab's wife, was the head of Dar al-Nadwa, the parliament of Arabia. There were women who were living good lives. But if you were unfortunate, where would you grow up? In a very arrogant, very Bedouin type tribe. So, some of these girls, when they get captured by another tribe, are so happy, alhamdulillah, you know what, I'm out of my awful tribe, I'm now in a new tribe. If you understand why, because when they join this new tribe, they see that they're being fed properly, clothed properly, respected in this new tribe. So Qais asked Nu'man bin Mundhir, he's like, where's my daughter? He's like, she's over there. He's like, what's happened? He's like, she got married to a member of our tribe. He's like, how? She's like, well, we captured her and she's our possession. And our possession means that we marry her straight away. She's ours. So he looked at him, he said, can I have my daughter back? He said, you go and ask her. If she wants to come back, she'll come back. You, it's up to you, go. He went to his daughter thinking she's bound to come back. She said, no, Dad. I actually appreciate the respect I'm getting here. When I was in your tribe, no one cares for us. No one cares for our growth, our development. And I want you to reflect on this when you think about Islam and the wars. Try and put a correlation later on for this. So she said to her dad that I don't want to come on your tribe. I prefer to stay here. The dad was embarrassed. My daughter leaves me and goes towards this other tribe. He made an oath. Any daughter that I'm going to have from now on, I'll bury her alive. Why? Because it saves me the embarrassment and the headache. I now have to return back to my tribe. When I return back to them, they're going to ask me, where's your daughter? How do I explain to them that the Iraqis have married her and that now I don't have no control over her? So he said, the best thing for me to do is I'm going to bury every daughter I have of mine alive. Whenever a girl comes, and you know how they used to bury their daughters alive? Different ways. One of the ways was by throwing her from the top of a mountain down. Anyone who's been to Umrah or Hajj, have you seen how steep some of these mountains are? Or have you seen the size of the rocks? You know that that rock, if it touches your head, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Correct? Imagine someone takes a baby, and the age normally where they would bury their daughters would be between a day, 1 day old, to 6 years old. That was normally the age period where they bury. Someone says, well, how did they reach the age of 6? Ah, interesting. When he met Rasulullah asked him, he said to him, did any of these daughters of yours that you buried, any of them broke your heart? Any of them? As in, surely a father, when he's got a baby, some fathers cry because they've got a newborn daughter. Others cry because of how hard their wives are holding their hands when giving birth. Others cry for different reasons. Surely you must have cried the moment you... He's like, you know, there was one occasion where I felt something. Oh, good, alhamdulillah. Tell me, what was that occasion? He said, one time my wife came to me. I had gone on a journey. I said to her, you gave birth? Said, yes. Said, where's the child? Said, it was stillborn. No child, stillborn. Said, okay. Said, years later, I come back to that wife and I see a girl walking around. I'm like, who's that? Who's dressed so nicely, who looks so cute, looks so beautiful. She said, listen, I'm going to be open with you. That's your daughter. I said, what do you mean? Said, you know that child I told you was stillborn? Said, yes. Said, that's your daughter. I kept the child because I couldn't bear to see my daughter buried alive. How many more daughters were you planning to bury alive? So he looked towards her. He said to her, so that was a girl, and you could have caused me embarrassment. She said, but she hasn't caused you any embarrassment. Why do you only assume that if you have a daughter, automatically she's going to run away with someone else? He said, I don't care. Let me see her. She said, what are you going to do? He said, don't worry, I'll go out with her, we'll talk. Let's build a relationship, me and her, so I get to know her properly. Where did he take her? He took her to the second of the places where they used to bury their daughters alive. What would they do? They'd dig a pit and put the baby or the daughter in there. So she said to him, she said, Dad, I haven't got to know you properly. Where are we heading? He said, I want to show you the natural world. Come with me. Eventually he says to her, sleep in that pit. She said, Dad, what are you doing? He puts the sand. He said, you know, when I was putting the sand, Ya Rasulullah, yes, when I was putting it, I was thinking to myself, you know, I feel a bit sorry for this girl. Because she asked me, Dad, are you going to remove this sand? He said, but anyway, I picked up the spade and I smashed her head with it. Rasulullah looked at him, yes. He said to him, a nation will be deprived of Allah's mercy when it has no pity and no kindness, yes. Do not expect the rahmah of Allah to come down on a nation that has no pity and no kindness. Because what is Islam? What's Islam? Islam is when a person has pity for others who are in difficulty. Islam is when the heart beats when you see oppression. Islam is kindness to others. Islam isn't me making a YouTube video of a beheading. You want to see Jahiliyyah? Go there and see Jahiliyyah. On YouTube, a beheading. And laughing after the beheading. Laughing. And then kicking heads around. That is Jahiliyyah. You found that this person looked at Rasulullah. That was the one who instituted it. And that's why you found that the Quran does something beautiful in Surah Al-Takwir. The Quran tells you in Surah Al-Takwir about the day of judgment. إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ وَإِذَا النُّجُومُ انكَدَرَتْ. And then the Quran reaches an ayah. وَإِذَا الْمَوْءُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ. All of you have read the ayah. Maw'uda comes from the word wa'id. Wa'id is when something heavy is on top of something. Yes, a heavy load. Al-maw'uda is the female baby. Someone says, well, what does heavy load have to do with a female baby? Yes? Quran says, the heavy loaded female baby. What does that mean? That means that they were buried with such a heavy load on them. Yes? الموؤودة وإذا الموؤودة سئلت بأي ذنب قتلت. The female baby will ask on the day of judgment, for what reason was I buried alive? Yes. How will she come according to Rasulullah? With blood all over her. Yes. Exactly the same way, because there are certain people who died in this world, Allah allows them to appear as they passed away. Yes. As a form of respect or a form of honor. These female babies, when they emerge on the day of judgment, there'll be blood everywhere. And they'll ask, for what reason was I buried alive? What did I do wrong? What was my crime that you buried me alive? What were the reasons that the Arabs gave? The first reasons we mentioned, embarrassment. That I'm embarrassed that my daughter may head off with someone else. The second reason why they buried their daughters alive was because of what? The second reason was because they didn't want, or they felt that their daughters in business and trade could not help them. We read in the Quran, لِإِلَافِ قُرَيْشِ إِلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ. Yes, the agreements of Quraysh meant in the winter, they went towards Yemen. In the summer, they went towards Syria. The Arab mind was a business mind. Who would go and represent them? Their sons. Yes. No woman would take a 1-month journey to Sham. Yes. Who's going to go on the sandy deserts and the rocky roads all the way to Sham? The Arab would hear the news. When he is told that a male is born, alhamdulillah, you know, I'm going to have a male, he's going to run the family business. Female? Why? What's the use of a female? She going to go to Sham to bring me business? No. Is she going to go to Yemen? No. Is she going to be in the Ukaz market? No. So bring me a spade. Smash the head. Buried. The second reason was what? Second reason was business. Third reason was what? The third reason was because they used to have a lot of wars known as the Fujjar wars. These wars, one tribe would fight another. Yes. One tribe would hate another. One tribe would plunder another. Now when a son is born, you could use that son to fight. When a daughter is born, can a daughter fight? No. So therefore you would find that they'd look at the daughter and they'll be like, what's she going to help me in a war? Where's she going to support me in a war? Give me a spade, smash. In some cases it wasn't a spade. Some cases they take their daughter to a well. Young 2-year-old, 3-year-old. They'll be like, do you see how deep the well is? They'll look down, they'll pick up the girl and throw her down. When they would do this, that would be the third reason. The fourth reason there was female infanticide. Some of them believed a female was a curse according to the gods. Yes. If a god gave you a male, then it was a blessing. And if a god gave you a female, then it was a calamity. So they buried their daughter alive. The irony of all ironies was what? Was that you found that there were companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There were companions of the Prophet who used to remember those days when they used to bury their own daughters alive. Yes? As in revered companions of Rasulullah, when they'd remember their days when they weren't Muslim, they'd remember the days where they'd buried their daughter alive. We'll give you an example. Umar ibn al-Khattab, second Khalifa in the history of the religion. Find Umar ibn al-Khattab used to talk about his days of Jahiliyyah. As we know, Umar and others, they weren't Muslim before. And then afterwards, each of them has a different conversion story. Each of them has a different reason why they came to Islam. Some came to Islam because they rationally understood God. Others came to Islam because of the social principles. Others came after slapping their sisters. So, you found that with him, he talks about the days when he was a jahil. Yes, and he says that there are things which I remember in the days of Jahiliyyah. There are certain things that make me cry, and there's other things that used to make me laugh. And he says, I remember them all the time. I said to him, which things make you laugh? He said, well, the thing that used to make me laugh from the days of Jahiliyyah was, for example, we used to worship a god made out of dates. Yes, we had this discussion in the idol lecture. That we used to worship a god made out of dates. Imagine now, when you break your fast in Ramadan, someone has made a Christmas tree of dates. Yeah. He said, and these Arabs used to worship dates, and even the mind today, there are some who worship rats and dogs. You go to certain parts of the world, he'll do sujood next to a rat. So, you say we used to worship the dates, no one's looking, we steal a date and eat it. continue worship. No one's. By the end, of course, the God has died. So he says, when I used to remember this, he said, I used to laugh. Then he says, there were things when I used to remember them, they make me cry. Like what, for example? Like when I buried my daughter alive. Imagine that this is a person who later on is known as a companion of the Prophet, but how many of them before they became the ashab of the Prophet had the worst of CVs? From those who were drunkards, to those who were idol worshippers, to those who were burying their daughters alive. He said, I remember that time and it makes me cry that I had a daughter, and it was normal for us in the days of Jahiliyyah that we would do such a thing. On this note, the difference between a ma'soom and a non-ma'soom is fundamental. Why? Anyone can lead an Islamic state. There's no harm, but surely the one raised in the lap of Rasulullah is a different person from anyone raised bowing before an idol. Yes. As Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen used to say, I used to follow the Holy Prophet like a she-camel's child used to follow its mother. Yes. I used to hear the sound of revelation, and used to know when Jibreel used to come. When there was only three of us, it was me, Khadija, and Rasulullah. Yes. You found that while there are Sahaba of Rasulullah who are people who sacrifice their lives, Muhajirun Ansar, there is nothing that comes near those who Jahiliyyah never touched even before Islam. Yes? There are others, they prostrated before an idol. There are others, they buried their daughters alive. And we know very well, you want to be a leader, you cannot have a black dot on your CV. Yeah? Anyone will keep picking on that black dot. What's the difference between the one who needs guidance and the one who Allah has already guided? Yes, there is a clear difference between the two. So you found that amongst the companions, Umar ibn al-Khattab was of those who had seen this happen. The question arises, those three reasons that the Arabs gave about why they buried their daughters alive, were they overturned when Rasulullah came? Allah, those reasons came back to haunt them. The first reason, I will bury my daughter alive to save myself embarrassment. Isn't that their first reason? That if my daughter joins my enemy's tribe, my enemy will embarrass her, make a fool of us. You look at Rasulullah, the first way he overturned it, when he married Abu Sufyan's daughter, Habiba. Yeah? Rasulullah had some fascinating father-in-laws. And one of them was Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan's daughter was who? Habiba. Habiba, when she married Rasulullah, do you know how angry Abu Sufyan was? Habiba was originally married to whom? She was married to the son of Jahash. When he had gone on the migration to Ethiopia, he saw this Christian girl. He fell in love with her. He joined Christianity. She was left as a divorcee. The Prophet ended up marrying her. You would think Abu Sufyan was embarrassed. My daughter marries the man who's my enemy. Enemy of my world, enemy of my aristocracy. But subhanallah, she would say, no one treats me like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa. Yes? Nobody treats me like him. The Arabs used to worry. If I have a daughter, and there are people who worry like that until today. You know, if I have a daughter, what if she runs away with someone, gets married to someone and I don't know? The Arabs used to have the same mentality. That what if she runs away with another tribe and I don't know what happens? The Prophet said, Habiba's married to me. Abu Sufyan, yes, he's my enemy, but I'll treat his daughter in the best of ways. She's a Muslim, and I will not embarrass the father at all. That's on the one hand. The second reason the Arabs were burying their daughters alive was what? They said the daughters cannot be what? They will not help me on the battlefield. Girls are weak. On the day of Uhud, a girl was braver than many of Muhammad's companions. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقلبتم على أعقابكم. Muhammad is but a messenger. Messengers have come before him. If he dies, or rather he is killed, will you turn back on your heels? Majority of the companions of Rasulullah on the day of Uhud ran away from the battlefield. Yes, they ran. And you found that when the Prophet was alone on that mountain, in Uhud, who was it that helped him on that mountain? Go to the books of Seerah. I ask all of you, everybody who listens to this, The first name always who stood with him, next to him, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. Salawatullah wa salamu alayh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The second to be next to him, Ammar bin Yasir. Yes. The third next to him, Miqdad ibn al-Aswad. Yes. Ibn Abd Yaghuth. The fourth, Abu Dujan al-Ansari. Yes. These stood alongside him. And the fifth, a lady who saw the Sahaba running. And she said, how dare you leave my Prophet alone? The Arabs used to say, a girl is a weakling, as we say in our terms. A girl is not brave. A girl is not strong. How she taught some Sahaba how to fight for Rasulullah. And she was injured in the battle. Injured. Yes, on that day, the companions were injured. I'll come to it later on in my lectures about that day and what happened. But you found that this lady was injured defending Rasulullah. The Arabs used to say, what's the lady going to do for me in battle? On that day, Islam had overturned and showed the bravery. Number three, they used to say that we should bury our daughters alive because in the businesses, she's not going to help. Khadija stood up. Yes, no doubt. If ever you want to see that the Arabs were wrong about their daughters not being able to be in the world of business, come look at the greatest wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No doubt. Khadija al-Kubra, you would find her in Quraysh. She'd be known as what? Al-Tahira, Amirat Quraysh. And the next few nights, inshallah, we're going to look at her life with Rasulullah. How many children did they have? How they brought up their kids. All of this is coming. But you found that lady, she controlled her own empire. I'm not going to say she's as wealthy as some people think she is. No, but she was able to control her own empire within that Arabian society. Therefore you found, on the one hand, it was overturned. Then how did Rasulullah therefore instill in them the greatness of the female? Through his words and through his actions. Yes? There's no need just to say words. Your acts have to be corresponding to your words. The first way was the traditions that he would teach them about the position of the daughter in Islam. Wonderful traditions highlighted to these Arabs that you know what a female is in your life. The most famous of them, anyone who has 3 daughters is guaranteed Jannah. Yes? There are many of you here, I'm sure, who are thinking to themselves, I've got the doors of Jannah ready for me right now. Yes. Of course, someone might turn around and say, does that mean that if we have 3 sons, we're not? No. You will be guaranteed, inshallah, as well. Although you may have to go through a period of Jahannam with those sons in dunya. And then eventually, the doors of Jannah will open for you. Yes. Secondly, Rasulullah would say, the blessing of having a daughter is that you will see kindness, politeness, cleanliness, and hygiene in front of you. Yes, no doubt. You look at your son sometimes and you see a mess and shouting and fighting. And the moment that girl, you see her, and your heart softens, yes, straight away. You see the kindness, you see the politeness. Politeness, especially when they want something, no father can say no, yes. When the boy begs for something, he's like, get out of my face. When the girl drops her cheeks in front of the father, yes. Or when the girl, for example, drops her eyes, the heart of that dad melts away. He says, look, don't give me that look. Don't give me that look, yes. Rasulullah says, you know what a blessing she is? You'll see kindness in front of you, gentleness in front of you. Yes, you Arabs, if you forsook your pity and kindness, bring it back. And you'll see it in the daughter while the daughter is home. Aisha, the wife of the Holy Prophet, says that one day a lady came to us. She came to me. She said, oh Aisha, I'm hungry and these are my 2 daughters. Aisha said, I gave her a date. She said straight away, she split the date between these 2 daughters. Ya Rasulullah, she never had nothing for herself. And she gave towards the daughters. He said that this lady will go straight to Jannah because of her nurturing and her kindness towards her daughters. Yes, the nurturing and the kindness towards her daughters. Further than that, you'd find the Holy Prophet even telling the new community on the basis of the bad treatment he had seen towards the female when he was growing up. Look at how much it affected him later on. Telling the new community that make sure that you observe the rights of your daughters. What are the rights of the daughters, Ya Rasulullah? Imagine pre-Islamic Arabia, some of these daughters had no huquq, no rights. Now Islam has come and said they have rights. What are they? One of the first rights According to the sixth Imam, when he refers back to the Prophet, the right of dialogue with your daughters. Talk with them, sit with them, discuss with them. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen would always sit with Sayyidah Zainab. He'd always talk with Sayyidah Zainab from a young age, to the extent he would say to Sayyidah Zainab on one occasion, Zainab, who do you love the most? She'd say, Daddy, I love you the most. And who else do you love? She'd say, I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. And then he would say to her, Zainab, you love me and you love Allah. You can't have two loves in one heart. She said, Daddy, it's because of people like you I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, beautiful, but it's a dialogue. It's a dialogue. The problem today is we become the McDonald's drive-through communities. Now, yes. Ever since McDonald's done a drive-through, humans were only going to talk to machines. Even today, you may be sitting in the same room. Your sister's over there and you're like, on WhatsApp, yeah, come here, please. Like, just say to her, hey, come, please. Come, please. What are you doing? There's no harm talking. Look at her face. Look at her smile. There's no harm. Likewise as a father. Sometimes it'll be like, how's school? Or the TV's there, she's there. How's school? Everything cool? Alhamdulillah. She's been in a conversation. He's not even listening in the conversation. Yes. Rasulullah says the first right of your daughter is that you engage in dialogue with her. Talk with her. Don't be like that Jahili Arab who sees her as a commodity or a slave. Talk with her. Open up with her. Number 2, teach her the Quran. Yes. Number 3, teach her good akhlaq. Number 4, give her a good name. Fundamental. Yes. That's one of the rights of your daughters, that you give a good name. Sixth Imam asked someone one day, he looked at him. He said, who's the girl with you? He said, my daughter. He said, what's her name? He said, Fatima. He said, never hit her. He said, no, you don't hit any child. But the one called Fatima, don't ever slap her. It reminds us of the slap. When you name your daughter Fatima or Zainab, you're reminding of the daughter of the Holy Prophet, the granddaughter of the Holy Prophet. That daughter of yours has a right on that. On one hand, he showed the actions towards the daughter. On the other hand, he showed it in his own acts as well. How? When his own daughter Fatima would come in. Yes. You would find when his daughter Fatima would come in, he would always say, Fatima is the mother of her father. Yes. Fatima, he would stand up when she'd enter the room. Everyone, these Arabs were used to one group of them hating girls, another burying girls, another being arrogant to girls. And now this man stands up. He would stand up for his daughter Fatima when she enters a room. Yes. And he would say, Fatima, bad'atun minni. Fatima is a part of me. Whoever angers her, angers me. Whoever angers me, angers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You would see all of this, and he would engage in dialogue with her when she wants to get married. Fatima, there is a proposal, come, do you accept? No. Do you accept? No. Today, you have fathers saying, do you accept? No. Okay, no problem, I'm still going to make the decision for you. You have in that time, Rasulullah say, no. Fatima, you accept? No. You sure? No. You accept, until Ali came, and her silence was her approval. Therefore, you find that Rasulullah highlighted that in his own actions to Fatima al-Zahra, she's the mother of her father and so on. He became a role model for the treatment. But when these ladies were having daughters and they couldn't get that type of help, whose houses did they go to in Arabia for help? The first house was Sa'sa' al-Tamimi's house. Sa'sa' al-Tamimi would say, any lady who's given birth is scared that her husband's going to be burying the daughter alive, come to my house. Or he would see the person about to bury his daughter, comes and say, what are you doing? The person's got a spade, he's about to smash his daughter. He would say to him, what are you doing? He'd say, I'm about to bury my daughter. He'd say, why? He said, my daughter's accursed from the idols. He'd say, listen, don't be like this. Give it time. Think about it. And he would try and talk to people, getting them out of burying their daughters alive. The second was Khadija's cousin, Waraqa bin Nawfal, who would try and help out with a lot of the daughters that were being buried alive. Just before they get buried, he'd say, listen, I'll take them, I'll help them. The third was the Holy Prophet. The fourth, Khadija, wife of Rasulullah. Yes. Her house in Mecca would be a house which would be open for any lady in Mecca who's given birth, whose husband's face has darkened and he's in a state of grief. She would say, any of you At any time of the night, my house is a hostel to the oppressed. My house is a hostel to the oppressed. Any of you who are in trouble, who have nowhere to go, come and knock. She had a servant by the name of Maysara. Maysara says, in the middle of the night, I saw the door knock. I heard the door knock. I came. Lady with a bag in her hand. What can I help you with? She said, is Lady Khadija here? He said, yes. What's it, 3, 4 a.m. in the night? Is Lady Khadija here? He said, yes. He said, what do you want? He said, I need to see her. Okay, no problem. Maysara said that I went to my Lady Khadija. I said, my lady, I know I've woken you up, but there's someone at the door. It's a lady and she has a bag and she's crying. Khadija said, our door is open for everybody. Welcome her in. When she entered, you find that Khadija saw her. She said to her, how can I help you? What is it you have in the bag? She went into the bag. There was a baby in the bag. Never take for granted when you are brought up in an environment of luxury. That's a rizq from Allah. And when I say luxury, I mean even a 1-bedroom comfortable apartment is a luxury. In some cases, there were babies that grew up in fear. Sayyidah Khadija said, what's this? Said, baby. Said, don't worry, come here. Said, but my husband. Said, don't worry about your husband. We'll talk to your husband. I'll represent you with your husband. Nobody disrespected Khadija. Yes? Only filth disrespects Khadija. Only dirt disrespects Khadija. Only scum disrespects Khadija. You want to see someone who's pollution as a human? It's the one who disrespects Khadija. Those who know. Otherwise, the whole world loves Khadija. People were honored because they knew with all her wealth, she opened her doors to every poor person who was living, and every weak person, and every oppressed person. Only the scum of this earth finds it difficult to praise Khadija. Go to any Muslim in the world today, you bring Bibi Khadija's name, they're proud, Bibi Khadija. It takes real filth to say, why do you always mention Khadija? You found that the door was open, and the door was open for anyone to come, and she would protect all of their interests. And that's why when Rasulullah said this religion would not have survived were it not for the sword of Ali and the wealth of Khadija. Yes. Wealth of Khadija. And what was Khadija's wealth? Social emancipation movements. Today, the Muslim world has to begin to build non-governmental organizations, has to begin to build non-profit organizations which seek to look after innocent girls who have no education. You know how many girls in Iraq, their parents will kill them if they go to school? Some of these tribes, they won't let their children study. In India, there are girls who have no chance of going to school because of the village backward mentality that they have to be a slave at home from the age of 6. We have to begin to build on the legacy of Bibi Khadija as a social reformer, as a lady who sought to bring emancipation towards those who were oppressed. A lady like that gave everything for the religion of Islam. On the night that she passed away, she never even had a kafan long enough to cover her body. And you know how much that hurts Rasulullah. And there are certain people in this world, I tell you, they were destined to die with no kafan on their body. Believe you me. There are certain people greater than me and you will ever be, where not even the dust under their feet. Believe you me, we die with a kafan and they don't. Wallah, it's haram. Wallah. There are people on this earth who have come before us, yes, who died, not even a kafan on their body. Mohammad, son of Abu Bakr, Amr ibn al-As killed him, placed his body in a donkey, stitched the donkey and burnt the donkey. Zayd, son of Imam Zayn al-Abidin, Bani Umayyah, burnt his body. They hung his body in public. Ya Abu Abdullah. These people die without a kafan and I die with a kafan. It's haram. It's haram. I don't deserve to have a kafan on my body. Rather, I wish this whole jama'ah could collect every kafan and we could have put it on Bibi Khadija. But this is the dhulm on Al Muhammad. The dhulm. That they gave everything away to the religion, and you find some of them with no kafan when they die. And I don't need to tell you who's the greatest of them with no kafan. Rasulullah on that night, and you know why? Because she had given all her wealth away. They were in the valley of Abu Talib, no food. No food in the valley. She gave all her money so the children eat. She ends up eating weeds and grass. As long as the children eat, I don't mind starving. What a woman. What a woman. No wonder Rasulullah said there are 4 women of Jannah. Asya, Maryam, Khadija and Fatima. And you found on that night, the tears were trickling from Rasulullah. 26 years married to the same lady, never married another woman while he was married to her. 26 years, the love of his life. Every other wife he married while he married another, except Khadija, was not interested in anyone else. And when he came to her final moments, you know who was hurt as well? Her daughter Fatima. And one person mentions how Rasulullah was crying. Someone said to him, Ya Rasulullah, I saw you when you were lowering Khadija's body, you were in tears. He said, I was crying also for the orphan Fatima. Said, why? Said, every daughter deserves to have their mother alive when she's married. My daughter Fatima will not have her mother with her. Yes. Those girls who have got married and their mothers were with them that whole day. Imagine your grandmother Zahra. Yes. When he came to want to bury her, because they were so poor, because of the Sha'b of Abu Talib, he tried to get this small white piece of cloth to cover her body. It only covered a bit of her body. He tried from another angle. It only covered a bit. At that moment, he prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, this wife of mine, Khadija, gave everything to you. Ya Allah, is it fair that she dies and she doesn't have a kafan on her body? Take your heart to her grave in Mecca. At that moment, you found that while he was in tears, Jibreel came down to him. With how many kafans? 5. He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, these are 5 kafans for you. He said to him, Jibreel, tell me who the first kafan is for. He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, the first kafan is for your wife Khadija, so that she has a kafan to cover her body. He said to him, Jibreel, tell me who the second kafan is for. He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, the second kafan is for you, that when you die, there is a kafan to cover your body. He said to him, Jibreel, tell me who is the third kafan for. He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, the third kafan is for Fatima Zahra, that when she dies, there's a kafan to cover her body. He said to him, Jibreel, tell me who is the fourth kafan for. He said to him, Ali ibn Abi Talib, that when he dies, there's a kafan to cover his body. He said to him, Jibreel, tell me who is the fifth kafan for. He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, the fifth kafan is for your grandson Hassan. One day you'll have a grandson by the name of Hassan. When he dies, this kafan is to cover his body. Allahu Akbar. When he heard that fifth one, he knew that there were certain names he had known from Jannah, the lights of Allah on earth. He said to him, Jibreel, where is the kafan for Abu Abdullah? Tell me, where is the kafan for Abu Abdullah? Yes. What was the reply? He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, Abu Abdullah will die without a kafan on his body. He said to him, why? He said, the horses of Bani Umayyah will trample all over the chest of Abu Abdullah. Yes. He said they'll break all the ribs of Abu Abdullah. They'll kick him around the land of Karbala with no one to look after him. مأتم الحسين يا حسين يا حسين